On this episode of Comedians in a Comedy Club Answering Questions, we ask, what clique were you in high school?
You with your millennials, what clique were you in when you were in high school?
I was in the cool girl group.
I was in the nerds, for sure.
By the way, I own more outfits. I just happen to be in this every time you film. Please pay me more.
But I was not the beautiful young lady you see before you today. I was the duff. I was very, very heavy, and I was pimply, and I was weird, and that's where my humour comes from, I think, is coping through the pain of high school.
I was the floater. Sometimes I was popular. Sometimes I liked to hang with the nerds because I felt sorry for them. But I was in the kind of like level playing kind of field, and I won the School Spirit Award, just quietly. So I was just an all-rounder, basically.
We were smart enough, but we weren't like the smart, bookish nerds. We were like the freak nerds who were weird but had a good time. So people would think that we were really good at maths. Wasn't true at all. And one time we started, there was a rumor around that we had a cult. And we were like, yeah, we can roll with that.
Anyone watching me from high school is probably like, she was a nerd. I was funny. I was the funny one.
For a start, when I was in high school, there wasn't such a thing as a clique. There was a group, there was people, they hang out.
I was in the Lost Boys. We didn't really have a clique.
For me at high school, the group that I hung out with was the group that didn't go to school.
We were like homeless. Like everybody had the courts for the B-boys. You know, the footy heads had the field. And we just had to travel around like the lost people in Egypt that travel around the desert for 40 years. We were fed up with our God and shit and just...
We were next to the beach, so if the surf was good, we didn't go to school. That was the group I hung out with.
I was in the popular group, but I was like the token emo punk one. It was more of an adoption situation than someone who belonged there.
I never was in a clique because I was that sounds like I'm trying to boast, but I was friends with everyone because I was school captain. So I was friends with everyone and like all the gangsters. There's no gangsters at my school, but like...
I have to be honest and say high school was an ugly, ugly time in my life.
Everyone was my clique. I'm from a little school, so there was like 300 people and everyone knew me, so it was gangster.
I was fundamentally hated at high school because I thought I was really, really funny and no one else did. So I was the weird one. If I did have a clique, I was actually literally in the music AV, the guys that hung out down at the music block and hid from everyone.
I was a Swampy.
I liked a lot of people and I don't think anyone liked me, and that's because I was socially awkward and just a mess.
And then I was a goth. So I pretty much hung out lurking in the darkness, waiting to see if I could trap a rower on its way home.
I think I was the weird nerd. And we weird nerds, we like to fly solo. We don't like to fly solo. We are forced to fly solo.
I was like a vagabond in high school. I just walked around with like two mates and we just made fun of every other clique pretty much. Like, you know, I played footy, I did computer club, I was in the musical. I was part of all of those groups, but I just like to be with my two mates and we just walked around just hanging shit on literally everybody.
I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but I think I was a mean girl.
Oh, definitely not the cool kids. No.
You know, I was pretty good at school, and then I had a whole lot of rat bag friends. I had the hot boyfriend who was a couple of years older and he had tattoos. And we're talking about, you know, the 1920s when I was a kid, no, the 1980s. And so, yeah, I was a mean girl. I'm sad that you've asked me that because now I feel bad. Sorry to anyone who I was ever mean to, because I'm not really mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely wasn't in a clique. Not very cliquey.
I was probably in the nerd clique.
We were all the boys who played like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff at a school with a very strong football program. But the thing was at the time, like all the nerds and stuff, we're doing D&D, we're doing Warhammer, but you know, Kung Fu was still a big thing. So I had like 5 black belts just kicking around.
I was good at studies, so like, yeah. And I wasn't a part of the cool group or anything like that.
So on one hand, like we were spending our lunches playing Dungeons and Dragons and make-believe, but we were just constantly in fights all the time, just belting the shit out of people. It was wild.
I was not in a clique. I was in the nerd group. and barely in that.
Every Friday night, our tradition was Friday night, all the boys, Dungeons and Dragons, right after school at Harry's house. We'd wrap that up. After D&D, we'd put on balaclavas and go into the woods and go ghost hunting with 2x4s, which is basically just an excuse to hit each other with 2x4s.
I was really ugly, all right, in high school.
1 a.m, back to Harry's house, topless wrestling in the mud in his front yard until 2 a.m, or if the police rocked up, we'd cut it early.
So I was in a clique of good-looking girls, hoping that the popularity would rub off on me. So yeah, they weren't the boring clique, and they weren't the it girl bitches. They were just the nice girls. They were all really good looking and just nice. Yeah, they was nice girls. But I never felt popular at school.
So it was a complicated social group.
And it wasn't until about 4 years ago, and they had this fucking huge reunion in my honour because I went back to England, that I thought, oh shit, because I didn't realise that I was funny at school. Apparently I was funny. So yeah, so that was my clique. I was the class clown.
Good lads.
Was as good for you as it was for me? Yes.